Alrighty guys, so today I'm actually going to be joining you on the rewatch of this podcast. Last night I had the privilege to get Joe Bennett, the hypertrophy coach, on board and have a chat to me. He had a chat to me at 9 a.m. his time, 8 a.m. his time, and so that made it 11 p.m. down here in Melbourne. So yeah, I was in bed last night pretty much, having a chat to Joe about all things hypertrophy and home training, and it was just incredible. It was such a good talk, and he was unapologetically Joe Bennett. And if you've seen any of his stuff, you know he can talk, and he tries very hard to make sure everyone is included in his answer, and tries to cover all of his tracks, because he understands more than anyone that all answers when it comes to health and fitness are individual. They have to be taken into account across all boards, and not just, I think where a lot of trainers get stuck is, they always talk about optimal. They're always trying to say what's the optimal best. So doing 3 sets over 4 sets, is going to be more optimal for this person, or squats is better than leg press, and having these really emotional attachments to exercises and things like anything to do with it. And he's very good at taking a step back and looking at it as a much more overall approach. And he just delves into basically everything. If you don't know who Joe is, the thing that is great about him, he's got heaps of certifications. He's gone through and done a lot of stuff with Charles Poliquin. He helped in 2016 help build up Ben Pakulski's gym, which was a Mr. Olympia contender, build up his MI40 gym over a couple of years. And if you haven't checked out that side of things as well, the Muscle Intelligence podcast, it's absolutely great, especially during this time, because it's much more about the holistic approach. But yeah, they built that up, and how he was a part of that. And yeah, the way that he explains exercises and the way that he talks about intensity and everything, it's just great. You should really get him check out. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about how to deal with losing muscle, if that's a problem. We're going to be talking about improving your waist control, which I personally believe is super important during this time. And he goes into how to listen to online information, which is massive, because obviously all the information we're getting now is essentially online. So who are the coaches to follow? What should you consider when you're taking in advice? We talk about how specifics don't really matter too much right now. He goes into it really, really deep, but it's less about how many reps and sets you're doing and learning how to train hard. We talk about everything. We talk about the main points or the main equipment to grab when it comes to training. If you are training at home, for the elites and all the way down to the very first piece of equipment that you buy. And yeah, we just talk about everything. Joe talks about everything. He does a lot of content that's 30-40 minutes long, and yeah, you're about to hear some great insights. So make sure you listen in, and yeah, let's do this, guys.
What's going on? Am I on?
Good.
Is it working?
You're on. Good morning, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for getting on board.
Absolutely. Hold on. Let me see if I can figure out how to get my speaker going here.
That's all right.
Because I can hear you. Well, whatever. This will work. Fine.
How's your boy?
Oh, he's good. Yeah, he's good. I mean, he's got I've got one that just seems to kind of get sick a little bit easier. He's got a little bit of a kind of a sensitive stomach, so not really anything that seemed to last more than 24 hours. So
okay, good. Oh man, it's good to get you in. It's nice and late here down in Australia. It was good though. We got a daylight saving, so hour went an hour back, so it's actually 10 o'clock, not 11. So we're both winning.
Nice.
All right. So, look, basically, one of the main reasons why you were like a dream podcast guest for me, because when I've been following your content for a little while, I've got your app, I've been watching how you tell your clients and how you talk to people online, and it's just awesome. It's like nothing I've ever seen, because you're very good at telling people or explaining to people what's important for the individual and what I guess they don't need to worry about. And I love that about you.
Thank you. Can you still hear me?
Oh, yeah, you there, big man?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you
I
hear me?
can hear you. Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, Joe. So talk to me. You obviously, unlike a lot of people, have access to a lot of people asking you questions and, talking and asking you about home training and everything like that. What are you finding is the general response at the moment as far as home training goes?
Overall, I kind of always say this is, especially for, a coach or a trainer, the first job is not so much obviously just provide actually specific information, not even to provide specific results, but it's to manage expectation, So, any client, whether it's someone obviously wanting to get on the Olympia stage, or someone middle-aged just trying to be healthier, they kind of come to you and say, hey, here's what I bring to the table. And with what they are willing to bring to the table, you should tell them, well, here's what's going to happen. Here's the expected potential outcome, obviously based on your experience. And, so those are the first conversations I think people, one, need someone else to help them have, and then two, most importantly, for them to kind of admit to themselves, what is going to be brought to the table and what can I expect from this? And so, I don't think there's a massive change for a whole lot of people out there. There's kind of basically, I think, a little period of a couple days maybe, or some people it's quicker, some people longer, where it's like, okay, this is the new norm for now, and given what I've got, here's what I can expect from it. And you'd be surprised. Obviously a lot of people, I'm not currently competing, I wasn't obviously prepping for any shows or something. So, I have a degree of empathy for people that, especially it's their living, the professional bodybuilders and stuff like that, where it's tough because obviously they're very, as they should be, like end goal oriented. They're trying to get on stage a certain day and look a certain way. But even for a lot of those guys and gals, everybody kind of in between, most everybody likes training to start just for a lot of the feelings you get from it. That's no one ever really picks up weights the first day, I don't think. It says, I can't wait to get on stage all oiled up, wearing a little bikini or a little Speedo or whatever it is. Most people like it for actually the feeling of training hard. Obviously the kind of positive hormonal benefits you can instantly feel from it, then long term. Maybe the mental benefits you get from it, again, from immediate training and things like that. So I think a lot of people overall are handling it well for the most part, where it's like, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to grow at this point in time. Maybe, hopefully I'll maintain some muscle at this point in time, but I can still figure something out where I'm getting that benefit of feeling like I'm working hard, moving. And again, I think that's massively important. I've had the conversations with a couple people now where it's like, a lot of people like the training is basically like anchor for their day to some extent. And even for people who've got maybe bigger priorities, they might say that their spouse or their family or their kids or their job or their business is more important than their training. They still prioritize training as much as anything else. Where, okay, well, this is how my day starts, or I do this at this point in time of the day. Schedule is as important as anything else. So again, we've had a lot of people have a lot of things kind of turned upside down in their schedules now, big important stuff. So I think a lot of people are just kind of finding, once they kind of make peace with what their training is going to be, they can kind of have a little bit of like a foothold or an anchor, just saying, okay, well, I've still got this at this point in time. And again, because it's a lot of us, there's some people obviously are really working their ass off, like medical professionals are taking the brunt of it right now. There's a lot of people that are stressed, that are literally, their income's been cut off. But again, for a lot of us, it's just, the reality is we're kind of just taking away some luxuries. You maybe not have some alone time with your spouse anymore. You can't go out on a date. You can't go out for a drink or to eat or whatever it is. So a lot of us, that's like our outlet. It's things where we relieve stress, or we kind of have a little like me time, whatever you want to call it. So again, I think even now more than ever, getting some kind of emotional and then tying over to physical, mental relief from your training is really, really important.
That's definitely what what I think as well. That emotional aspect is going to be one of the big reasons on why we continue to train and why we're doing that. Now, how you talk also a lot about managing expectations when it comes to not just training from home, but just training with whatever intensity someone's going to give you. So what sort of expectations should we look at as far as home training goes now?
Yeah, I mean, so it's, the kind of one of the obvious things, and, people kind of get confused with the way that I'll present information or show exercises or do some things, because, if you're just kind of, I always joke, like, you get people, which is good. I mean, I want people basically at some point in time to get exposed to my information for the first time. But sometimes people get exposed to information the first time and they come and they see me doing something with a cable or a band. And especially if it's something that they haven't seen before, kind of your first thought could be like, oh, like, he's just doing that for the sake of doing that. But the reality is, if you have stuff that's kind of principle based, sometimes you just come to different solutions that it could have the exact same principles being applied that's just using a barbell where appropriate for an exercise. Could be the exact same principles applied just for a different body part or a different motion. Could look like cables or bands or just weird stuff. So, originally, like, sometimes people are like, oh, this guy's always got very specific things and just weird stuff. So you think, oh man, like I'm out of luck now because I don't have access to my cables and my bands and all these, pieces of equipment and machines, which I use sometimes. But the reality is, you're always just kind of looking for the best solution at hand. So again, if, like, even though I will choose a better solution, well, sometimes it's not a big deal. Like, for me, it's like, okay, I don't have that tool anymore. Like, what's the next best thing? So I think a lot of it now is the big challenge the vast majority of people are going to have is just getting adequate load. So I mean, if you're someone out there that's, literally you're deadlifting 7 plates from the floor, and that's one of your big movements you've been progressing, and now you're at home and you've got bands and dumbbells, obviously there's nothing you can really do to reproduce that level of load, for that specific exercise and specific muscles that you're attempting to train. So again, if I look at the kind of the simple version of what potentially leads to hypertrophy or building muscle in your training, you have load, you have fatigue, and you have, as a result of those things, often getting to very slow reps, unintentionally slow reps. So basically, once you're hitting failure points. So I always say a lot of people right now aren't going to be able to get load no matter what they do, but potentially you can still, take yourself to the point where hopefully producing enough force to either, maybe build some new muscle or hang on to some muscle, if you're getting to points of extreme fatigue, and you're still kind of hitting failure points. And so that's where a lot of people are now is, once you can kind of make that switch. For some things, there's no way around. You might literally be doing 20 or 30 reps, which again is its own kind of new horrible. Some people I know are already benefiting from that, just doing some things they normally wouldn't do. So maybe the idea of novel stimulus has a place sometimes. But again, so right now I think it's, it's the same thing. I'll have people be like, well, is this enough for me to maintain, or is this enough for me to grow? And I always say it's the same thing. It's like looking at, or I look at Phil Heath's arm training, and not that there's anything wrong with it, but I look at it and I say, well, is that enough for me to get, 22-inch arms? And I mean, I know the answer already is no, but it's enough for him to get 22-inch arms. So it's the same for anything in training. You never really know what a training stimulus is going to do to an individual, because individual response is always different. So most people, lighter loads, higher repetitions, trying to still hit failure points and train through fatigue. And again, some people will grow some muscle during this period of time. Again, they're just the type of people that maybe respond to that stimulus. Some people will maintain, and again, some people will lose some muscle. But again, as everybody knows, it's kind of mentally tough. It's like, okay, maybe I'm going to lose some muscle for a month, 2 months, 3 months. Who knows how long it's going to go on in different areas of the world. But it comes back fast. I mean, that's the thing that people know anecdotally. I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, people have known that, since people have been training probably, for 100 plus years or whatever. And people which is fine, that there's actually evidence of, we don't really know what it is, but there's actual, evidence now that there is a muscle memory type thing, where basically there is something that seems to happen, from a physiological standpoint, that lets people get back to levels they were previously at very quickly. So I think if people are doing their best, they may maintain some muscles. The worst case scenario is people are going to lose some muscle. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff people can do now where they can have your body, take it as almost a little bit of a break, maybe focus more on some recovery tools, focus on as much as you can on your own, hopefully fixing or correcting some stuff that's not maybe the exact right word. But some people can come out of this where they've improved a lot of stuff. Yeah, maybe they're down, a few pounds of tissue, but there's no reason that can't come back faster than it did in the first place. And potentially get to a better spot out the other side. If, maybe if you had elbow issues or shoulder issues or knee issues, this can be a decent time to try to do your best to resolve some of that.
Yeah, and you also talk a lot about improving your waist control, which is something that I'm super big on as well. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's some of the things that's where the nature of a lot of bodybuilding and training in general, whether you look from the elite level or you look from your average weight loss client, I say there's not any fancy information that is keeping people from the results. It's just the hard part is relatively simple information applied consistently for long periods of time, and that's the hard part. And so whether it's the average person, I'll joke, it's having trained when I started was mainly looking again average person. I would say your average client is general health or weight loss. And I figured out pretty fast some people just like to talk about nutrition and diet, I think, to kind of take some ownership off themselves. And so when you have those conversations, you realize, okay, well, there's not really any tricky information. If you're just trying to lose 20 or 30 pounds, most people know to an extent what they need to do, at least 90% of the way. It's just really actually adhering to it that's tough. So it's the same thing with waist control. Of course, again, I say 90%, there's the 10%. There's some things, again, where I think, there's nothing wrong with having on paper a good routine, maybe some unique information and application for cueing, or here's how to feel this, or here's how to do that. But most of waist control is just, it's stuff that you just have to do every single day consistently. And again, I know it from firsthand. I'm guilty of when I don't really have something that's like, if I'm getting on stage or something, that's a great reason for me to actually adhere to waist training or waist control better. Or again, most people, it's like, well, they're not really missing a whole lot of information. They're just missing application. And I think that's what the time like this really kind of exposes that in a lot of people, where it's, again, some people, if they don't have everything the exact way that they want it, their adherence goes out the window. And it's like, well, if some things coming up and you go from doing whatever you're doing to nothing, that might be your issues, where, again, some things that maybe that are really the stem of your adherence or lack of adherence, where, again, people shouldn't get too overly attached to their tools, where it's like, oh, I have to have this exact thing, because, again, as soon as one little thing goes off, or like in this case, one big thing goes off, then it's not hard for people to use that as an excuse to just completely go off the rails and do nothing. So, waist training is literally, most people have a concept of what muscles actually pull their waist in smaller. So if I put a measuring tape around someone's waist when they're completely relaxed around their belly button, and then I said, pull it in, most people would have an idea of what that means. And doesn't have to get a whole lot more complicated than that with most people. It's okay, well, did you feel that? Did you actually feel that took effort to pull into a certain point? Okay, now when you're in that point of discomfort and that point of effort, it's the same as any other exercise. It's pushing slowly over time, whatever you can kind of keep track of. So some of it is how far can I do it? So you say, okay, pull it in as tight as you can. And that's okay. Now, man, I've got a gun to your head and I say, pull it in as tight as you possibly can. You're going to get some people sucking in a couple extra inches. And then, so it's basically saying at that perceived level of effort. And then from there, it's as simple as timing things, So again, if that's what you're looking at, what's a given set for waist control, is, are you putting it to maximum intensity so as far as you can contract those muscles? And then, keeping track of how long you're holding it at those points. And then over time, within what I would call maybe a set, is taking your sets longer. I mean, that's the basically the volume dose within a set, same as an exercise going from 8 reps to 9 reps to 10 reps, within one hold, if you're going from 10 seconds to 15 to 20. And then the same way you would do anything else, it's just increasing the overall volume dose over time, so going from, okay, well, I'm doing that for, 1 or 2 times for 10 seconds. Now I'm doing it for 1 or 2 times for 30 seconds. Now I'm doing it for 3 or 4 times and about, again, holding it for 30 seconds each. And then multiple times a day. I mean, to the point where if it's really a priority, you're doing that 3-4 times a day. And that's really it is. So training basically is the ability to prove capacity, same as any other muscle in the body. So you can prove capacity by how far can you pull it in. That's kind of like increasing your 1 rep max, again, except for that exercise and those muscle groups, and then progressing your ability to actually hold it over time. So basically increase the volume muscles can tolerate. And that's about it. I mean, it's and then the difference between that and any other muscle is ultimately, once you kind of hit where you think your point is, for the most part, to the point of diminishing returns of how far and how tight can I get this in, the difference is you're not trying to make those muscles necessarily as big as humanly possible. So you don't have to try and get creative. I say the only way you can really progress load is literally doing it the difference between an empty stomach and a full stomach. But after that point, it's really about how long can I hold it. So just increasing your duration. Because again, most people would like to be able to hold their waist tight to some degree anytime they have their shirt off. And then anyone that competes says, well, can I at least hold it as tight as possible, for the anywhere from 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes they're on stage, if they're doing good and they're, posing and doing comparison rounds and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, with a lot of these sort of exercises and things like that, people get very emotionally attached to them, and they think that that's where a lot of their training should lie. Now, obviously, with today's climate, all our information is coming online. All of our information is coming from Instagram, social media, everything like that. What are some tips that we can give people that to follow the right information or to take the right things away from them?
Yeah, that's a real tough thing. If I had a great answer, then no one would ever be spending money on things they shouldn't, or no one would ever be wasting time doing stuff that gets them hurt or whatever. But some of it is before, so the people that I think people should be, it's twofold. When most of us start working out, a lot of people are just listening to a buddy or reading something out of a magazine or things like that. But again, the difference with that is the buddy's not saying, hey, I'm an expert, follow me and give me your money. The person's just saying like, oh, well, that person has a weight and here's what I've been doing. And you're saying, oh, I'm going to try that too. So I don't ever think there's anything wrong with people that are putting out information. Then there's tons of people that are basically just in great shape and they like working out, and that's their qualification. But that's all they advertise. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So people are like, man, I like him. This stuff seems good. And, I want to look that way. And again, if the person's ever saying, oh, well, if the consumer or the individual looking at that information is ever saying, oh, well, if I do exactly what he does, I'll look exactly that way, I think that's kind of their mistake. But there's nothing wrong with, hey, I'm just kind of getting a glimpse at what somebody's doing on their own. They like this and that. And if they just follow that, I don't think that's inherent. Not really any expectations set forth of, hey, this is my job, I'm going to give you the best possible information. But then the same thing is people, especially when you're spending your money or really having a managed very specific outcome, it should be mostly the same people. Look for people that are actually have some sort of qualification. At the end of the day, I don't think anybody should be following anyone online and paying for any form of training, whether it's any form of, principles outlined or a specific program or whatever, unless that person's done that for their profession. And again, there's only one type of trainer. And again, is when it comes to exercise and exercise prescription, is a trainer that's actually worked with bodies in person, for some period of time. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with managing variables. So some people just like the ability of, okay, well, I'm going to have this person tell me, eat this or eat that, or here's a good option, or I just want somebody I'm literally sending pictures to. So again, there's the whole online coaching realm. Again, the variable of accountability is great, and that's what a lot of people are basically managing. But again, when it comes to exercise prescription, I think the best people to be looking at now, again, are the people that have done it for a living, are qualified to actually train bodies. And then from there, there's kind of just the big asterisks again, where the same thing, there's a whole, there's kind of that's I'm painting that as kind of black and white or two different people, but there's, a whole host of gray in there. People I think that are really just putting out great information. Again, do I need some super specific exact plan that's going to be the best plan at this moment? No. I think some of the best stuff people are going to get at this moment is just things that mentally and emotionally help them the most. So I think for the most part, a lot of people are really just trying to do their best and just, hey, I'm tell people just move every day, do something physical every day. So again, there's the whole thing is the way that it always is. There's probably some people that I think maybe they knowingly are kind of taking advantage of the situation where it's like, okay, they're just trying to capitalize off of people's, extreme need now for something very specific. But from what I see, I'm seeing 90% of it. That's half of it. If there's people that we're making our livings with some sort of online coaching presence, we're going to keep doing the same things we've always done, so it's, again, I'm just going to try and put out a lot of free information for who wants it. And then again, if you have some sort of coaching platform or you have something where you're providing workouts or things like that, you're going to shift to the demand that people make, so again, if I've got a lot of people saying, hey, I want this or I want that, there's some stuff I can give away perfectly fine to do for, a minute video or 5-minute videos, on some sort of social media platform. But when I get people wanting very specific stuff where it's a, an individual plan or programming, or really expanding on a specific concept, then a lot of us are just doing the same thing we've always done, where it's, again, through either specific programming or accountability or, some sort of content, site or something like that.
Well, yeah, that's a few things that I definitely wanted to touch on there, because you did do a lot of years in the trenches, 20 plus years, you know, working one-on-one with clients and helping them change bodies and fix them and help them feel better. Now, obviously the videos that you put out on your site, and when you're actually going through some of these workouts, they're 20, 30, 40 minutes plus explanations and voiceovers. How did you manage that? Were you like that when you were taking one-on-one clients, or was that something that developed once you moved onto an online platform?
I mean, I think it's something, I joke, I don't know if it's good or bad, because as we're obviously listening to right now, I'm not capable of providing short answers for anything. But I mean, maybe, again, I don't think I'm doing it because I like to listen to myself talk. Unfortunately, I'm a human being. And so maybe there's some of that, whether it's conscious or subconscious, I don't know. But as you're, the whole goal, I think, a trainer, it doesn't have to be anything specific, but the goal of being a trainer is obviously you're accumulating experience, and hopefully you're accumulating experience producing results, and then progressively able to deliver better and better results. So how that happens, I think, is just, one is from day one. I mean, when I started training people, they knew I was brand new, and I told them that. And again, it's not super hard. Again, especially that's why I think most people should start with general population, to find out, okay, well, how can I get this person moving more, potentially doing some things that are going to put on some muscle, hold them with some degree of accountability to what they say is important to themselves, to maybe, actually be in a deficit and lose some weight. So again, you just start with being realistic with your clients and honest with your clients. And as you start to hopefully do the positive things that you're qualified to do at that point in time, you start producing results, you basically just kind of accumulate, this hopefully Rolodex of all this actual human experience of what you're seeing helps people produce results. And then at the same time, hopefully you're investing in continuing education. So it's kind of this constant ongoing thing where it's like you're gaining this new stuff, hopefully through certifications and seminars and online stuff, whatever it is. And then when you're working with people, you're always kind of, it all goes through the filter of how can I actually integrate this? Where is this actually going to have a place and a purpose? So I think that's what happens, is where it's like, if I was good, I could say 10 seconds, someone says, hey, well, what's a good exercise for biceps or whatever? And so what the short answer, maybe right when I started, I would have said, okay, well, Arnold said, barbell curls, that's it. That's the basics. That's where you start. And then just as a result of having trained thousands of people, or having 10,000 hours plus of training people, and then accumulating, you realize it's not that simple, because again, all of that is really, well, what actually can I do for an individual? How do I individually apply that? And then what result have I seen? So as you just accumulate all this, you're like, well, shit, that doesn't actually work for everybody. And then there's also, aside from what may or may not fit, for, whether it's mechanics reasons or whatever, doesn't matter. Or if there's also the thing is like, what's necessary? Okay, well, really, I could pick 20 different bicep exercises for Miss Jones. Like, when does she ever have to train biceps, or how should she train them? And what are maybe, if there's 20 different things that could appropriately do it, how am I picking that one for her? And so again, once you kind of put it through all the filter of stuff, that's why I just end up talking for a million years on things, because again, it's the sake is to be accurate, and that's the tough part with online. I mean, it doesn't matter how long I talk in a post. If I do a post or I do a video about an exercise, or even with a pretty loose concept, my goal is maybe 90% of the people listening to it, it's going to be applicable and help. There's going to be a 10% population or whatever, so hopefully a smaller population of people where it's not going to help them, or they're going to take it the wrong way, or it's just the wrong information. So that's why, like, my whole thing is very, I don't, a lot of people say, like, kind of, I wish I had like a sexy one sentence answer I could have for like what exactly I do, like what's my thing, what's my deal. But I don't really have one. I have stuff where it's like that all of my shit is long, all of my videos take forever, because I'm trying to always get concepts across in them. It's never just, hey, do this exercise for big biceps, here you go. It's going to be a long conversation about, okay, well, what do you bring to the table, from an emotional, mental standpoint? What do you bring from a physical standpoint? And here's some principles you could apply. So again, if you're training in your garage, you're training in a gym, you're training at home, with what you have at hand, how can I apply those principles? And then again, managing from that point, the outcome. So that's like, if I have a thing, it's like people that don't want short answers. That's probably what I provide more than anything. Again, there's a time and a place for short answer. If I'm having a one-on-one conversation, that's the goal of a trainer, is to be able to provide short, specific answers for that person, because the average person doesn't want to hear a half an hour answer. But again, when I'm speaking to people online, my demographic is people that want to get their head wrapped around concepts a little bit better, so they can kind of make educated decisions for themselves. And then again, if I have a lot of people that I help that are trainers or professionals in some way in the fitness field, they want to be able to create solutions on their own, kind of within the parameter of, okay, I get this concept, I get this principle, and then they kind of just make it their own and do their own thing from that point.
Yeah. And do you think, especially now, talking about Mrs. Jones' client, the average gym goer, do you think, I personally think that right now concepts are probably more important than the actual execution of themselves. I would rather some of my guys talk and learn more about some of these fundamental concepts that you're talking about, rather than going out there and just trying to do exercise for the sake of doing it right now.
And it all depends. So again, these are conversations that I think I think it's a great time for trainers to actually realize, have I taken the appropriate steps with my clients? And again, I'm speaking vastly from personal experience, from having worked with a bunch of new trainers to great trainers, to trainers that are solely good at this part and not actually, have the best tools in their tool belt. But are you taking the time to kind of get on the level for, I always say the tools themselves, you should be completely unemotionally attached to. The reasons you're doing this stuff in the first place, it has to be arguably the most emotional reasons in your life. Otherwise, you're not going to stay, dedicated. This is the difference, obviously, of dedication and motivation. And again, those are the conversations trainers absolutely mess up the most, from either not having them or not having them long enough. And again, I'll speak from personal experience. I didn't have them long enough, especially like when I actually learned. This is why it's great to learn systems in the first place. Because again, it's coming from people that might have some more experience than you, and then maybe have some more emotional depth than you, or emotional maturity. Because I joke, when I first started training normal people at 22, like how the hell can I relate to a 50-year-old, person that started and built their own business? They have kids that they're worried about now getting through college or whatever. Like, to be honest, I just didn't have a lot of life experience to relate. And as I start to accumulate, one is just trusting the process that I've come, again, from people teaching before me. And then two is I actually accumulate some of that stuff. I'm like, okay, like this makes more sense now, because for most people, we have to realize, like, they hate working out. I mean, maybe some people like it after the fact. I mean, even people that hate working out then like are just aware of, okay, I feel better afterwards, or I feel awake afterwards, or I feel alert afterwards, or just a sense of accomplishment. So with your normal people now, I mean, I think that's where people are realizing, like, if everything's, you're like, God, I can't get people to do anything, or nobody wants to do at-home workouts, or I'm having a hard time doing this, or they don't want to blah, 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 whatever. I mean, that might be it's, well, the conversations now are some people, like, they're going to have their normal routine disrupted, but you kind of got to circle back, hopefully, to the original conversations you have. Like, well, what is this for you? And the reality is, people are just trying to make the best decisions that they can to hopefully set themselves up generally to be the healthiest that they can be, or physically, if obviously physical appearance is massively important to a lot of people. And again, with the tools at hand, I honestly think this is a time where for most normal clients, the specifics of what you're doing actually doesn't matter a whole lot. Because again, for a normal person, what does it take to be healthier? I mean, being healthier has nothing to do with having as much muscle tissue or lean tissue as possible. Obviously, you can make the argument for sure more is better. You can argue for a whole host of reasons, from hormone reasons to how it helps you manage, blood sugar reasons and things like that. Yes, are massively important. I don't know the exact amount. You know what I mean? It's not, oh, you have to have this amount of lean tissue or that amount of lean tissue or whatever. You can make the arguments that you don't want a certain amount of body fats. But most normal people now, if you can just help them find ways to stimulate their muscle so they're getting some good quality muscle contractions with whatever frequently, you're going to help them either maintain body weight or stay in a deficit. There's no reason people can't be in a deficit right now. So there's no reason if it's important to them, it doesn't distract from your life in any way, shape, or form to lose body fat right now. And then again, if there's physical and emotional benefits, especially for longevity and health standpoint, it's not hard to do right now. I mean, you just need some sort of resistance applied, and you're going to have some sort of lean tissue, or keep some sort of lean tissue, or stimulate that lean tissue, whatever that means. And again, so the average person right now, just helping them get over, okay, things have changed. If this is still important to you, then here's just the new norm for the time being, and here's what we're going to do. And because that's the end of the day too, I always say, like, as technical of a person as I am, I have to realize most people don't give a shit about that. Again, even at the elite level, a pro bodybuilder, you can tell this person's been doing it for 15 or 20 years. They're trying to literally be the best bodybuilder in the world on the Olympia stage. Some people don't give a shit about the exact tool. If it's, give them this tool, and whether they believe it or don't believe it, or they think, maybe this kind of makes sense or doesn't, if they start applying it, and a muscle group gets bigger and a joint that was hurting stops hurting, then they're gonna be like, oh shit, this is it. They don't really care about the specifics of it. They're still just there for their results. And so it's the same with normal people. It's just getting them over a little hurdle of who gives a shit what you shouldn't really care in the first place. And to be honest, I don't really care what tool we give you either. Let's just manage the expectation of what we've got now. And so, yeah, again, I'm honestly, for the average trainer now, because there's a lot of trainers now that are kind of scrambling. What can I still do for my clients? Obviously, a lot of us are still trying to make some living. I mean, we know, hopefully there's a lot of people not trying to capitalize now. It's like, okay, it's like people jacking up prices of hand sanitizer and shit. So as long as there's not people doing like shady, weird stuff of like, oh, I'm going to just try and do this whole thing where it's out of fear mongering. If you're not working out or being healthy now, you're putting yourself at risk. I mean, but there's still a lot of people, there's nothing wrong with still trying to make a living. And I think if your demographic is the average person, you're going to still have a huge role now. You're going to still have a huge service that people need and you can provide, where again, you're just kind of like, okay, the tool doesn't matter. And here's the new tools that I'm giving you. And then it's the accountability, the encouragement, and all that kind of stuff. And I had a conversation with the other day with Mark Coles on a live. And if anybody doesn't know, Mark Coles, one of the best, business owners in the UK of a private training facility. He does education and development for trainers. And we talked about now, this is always massively important, but a lot of people are doing like, video training now and in-person training. And people need now more than ever the physical benefit. They need a break from their day, right? So again, most people's days now, it's whether it's from just, people don't like the unknown. People don't like disruption of routine. People don't like feeling like sometimes, because obviously what the most of the world is being told to do now is nothing. And if you gave people more action, they'd probably feel better about it. But it's like, just sit home and don't do anything. And if you're actually a person that's very action driven and, and just like, shit, I just got to literally sit here and do nothing for a month or more, it's like the worst advice they want to hear. So they're just kind of constantly living on low level stress. So if they get a break for their day where they're in front of their trainer, and even if it's kind of a silly workout they're going through or whatever it is, if the trainer can do what they should always do and actually leave that person, no matter what happens during that session, no matter what exercise they choose, or is it total body or push pull or body weight or bands, it doesn't matter at all. If the person leaves that session, they've had the ability to maybe vent to their trainer. The trainers shouldn't counsel anybody because we're not qualified to do it, but you're more than welcome to listen, ask questions, and listen to the answers. And for people now to be able to vent, and then for you to be positive and encouraging and just to put it into people where they come out of a session, whether they're like, man, they've got to vent all this stuff out loud, whether they know they're doing it or not. And at the same time, they just hung out with somebody for half an hour or an hour that was positive and motivating and encouraging. They're going to come out of that session like, shit, like this is the, whether they know it or not, they're going to feel probably better at that point in time than they have the whole day. So people really, really need that break now. They need that outlet. And again, it's a lot of things at the same time. They can have this dump, their ability things out loud that they're thinking, and then get obviously the physical benefits as well too, is from just getting obviously heart rate up and muscles contracting and these positive things that we want to see happen hormonally. So again, the average trainer, we've got a lot to do now. And I always say with the big asterisks, like I said, there's some people now, there's medical professionals that are probably working twice as much as they've normally worked. And there's some people that are out of their jobs right now. So they literally don't know the next time they're going to get paid. So if a trainer's job first and foremost is hopefully to take care of people as human beings. So the best thing you can do now, some people literally won't be able to pay for coaching or pay for the services they were before. But those people, you can help them in any way, shape, or form. You might more of your time, 5 days a week for them or whatever, like you used to. But if you really let people know now whether they can pay you or not, if you still actually are concerned for their well-being, can help them. I mean, that's one. I think it's the right thing to do in the first. It's going to go a long way in the future as well too. Hopefully, a lot of people that are really financially struggling right now, can get back to some level of normal as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, I really hope personal trainers are taking that sort of route, because you need to be very open, and it took a long time to build that relationship that we've had for the last years. I was working as PTs at the big box gyms and things like that, and now's a more important time than ever for them to know that you actually give a shit about them, and you want them to succeed through this so that they can come back and regardless, whenever the gyms do reopen back up, we want them to feel good. We want them to feel stronger than when they left.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So now let's talk a little bit more about the Mrs. Jones person. And let's say they started with absolutely zero equipment and they had to get through to the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months of training at home. What if you were to say 3 pieces of items that you would recommend? Where would you start?
So obviously the the limiting factors of this with a lot of people are obviously going to be accessibility and money. So just for the reason of thinking about accessibility, the ease of using it anywhere, and financially not being a huge strain is, some sort of bands. And again, it's, people are always, I understand why, people ask me specific questions, because obviously I imply often that the specific answer is the best answer. But for the most part now, I have the big kind of heavy duty bands that you use obviously within training that can be, providing a couple of 100 extra pounds of resistance on a bar or whatever, so it's nice to get some durable bands or whatever. But I tell people now a lot of times it's like, just what you can get, especially now. So I have at home, I have some kind of heavy duty bands that I bought that are basically made for commercial use, from powerlifting or whatever, which have a great place now. But I have a couple sets of bands in my garage that I had already bought, that are just literally off of Amazon, where it's ones where you get, hey, here's 5 different bands of 5 different levels of resistance. And it comes with handles that you can click on and off of them. And so for most people, that's the absolute first thing I would buy, because it makes a big difference. There's not too hard for lots of bands, at some point of the range of motion for people to be able to add 50 pounds. And again, for Mrs. Jones, do you need a whole lot more weight than that? It's basically the time when you need more weight than that is when you're turning, Mrs. Jones, transferring from Mrs. Jones into a badass, which I joke with a lot of trainers for clients is, your ability to actually do the right things and walk the walk. Because, a lot of trainers get into it just because they look good, and they've had people, and lots of times looking good came easy to them. And so over the whole course of their life, they've had people ask them, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And they think at some point in time is, well, shit, I might as well make some money for answering what I do, which may or may not, lots of times, unfortunately, that can make someone the worst trainer if they're basing it on personal experience. But so I always say for trainers, that's the evolution you should have, though. If you really know the things where if you're basically just, normal, there's a lot of trainers that were just normal people, very average genetics that have worked their asses off and have turned themselves hopefully into the badass. I say that trainers should be, to some extent, it obviously doesn't have to do with an exact amount of muscle or body fat, but you should be the example for actions. And so that's, again, the evolution of a client should be, if you always want to have somewhere to take your clients, you take a Mrs. Jones and try and turn them basically into yourself over the course of years. And that will be clients that you have for long periods of time. But the point being now is pretty much everyone at Mrs. Jones level can get to a looking amazing level, just with bands. That's the reality is, it's, again, you wouldn't lie and say, oh, you're going to get huge, you're going to get jacked, you're going to put on pounds and pounds of lean tissue. But the average person literally can put on enough lean tissue to be the definition of look good. If you have the great place to start with Mrs. Jones and say, what's your ideal physique? What's an example? It's great to have some sort of end goals. They're going to show you somebody. And normally when they start, they're not showing, physique Miss Olympia as their goal, or most guys aren't showing, Phil Heath as their end goal. Most normally, they're going to show, I don't know who's young and good looking now, but I'll say Brad Pitt because I'm old and I don't know what girls. I'm just publicly telling everyone what males I find attractive, apparently, because I couldn't even think of a female example, which maybe says something. But they're going to come with something like that. They're going to give an example of someone lean and with some muscle. And again, most people can accomplish that with bands. So I'd say bands first. Next, dumbbells. Depending on the person, the people, it's funny, it's like 2-3 weeks ago, I was telling some people that were asking me that I'm personal friends with, that finances aren't a big issue. And I was saying, man, get some adjustable sets of dumbbells. There's plenty of different brands that have basically, I think it was Power Block was the first company I ever saw make them, 2 decades ago. And now there's a whole bunch of different companies that make basically the interlocking dumbbells where it's one little station and you can be from 5 to 70 pounds or whatever. If someone can find those and they don't mind spending, $300-400, that's honestly a whole shit ton of dumbbells in my gym that I had bought for my wife, my garage gym. And I wish when I had gone back that I had bought one of those. But if you can't from there, I'd say the next step is just accumulating whatever dumbbells that you can. Because obviously the advantage of a dumbbell over a band is, at certain parts of band, when you start an exercise, gives you a pound. And then at the end, it could have 50. So there's times when that gets tricky, where it is an advantage that a dumbbell basically always pulls straight down, however much it weighs, 10 pounds. So I'd say start with bands, then from there move to dumbbells, just kind of accumulate whatever you can get. And for the average person, there's not a whole lot they have to get after that. I would think, again, if you're just looking to look good, move good, feel good, because I wouldn't want someone, I don't think there's ever anything wrong home gym, but there's some normal people that their whole reason they don't want anything at home because the gym's their escape. Everybody under the sun now, well, slowly invest in a home gym, spend $2-3 grand. And then when things do go back to normal, they're like, I wish I hadn't spent $3,000 on something I'm literally never going to use now. So for most places, I think those two things are the best place to start. And then again, depending on where you're at, the next step I would say would maybe be, a bench. And then the biggest jump from that point for people who really want to go a step further is some sort of power rack. And again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be a very, there's tons of called like a garage gym rack or some variation of it, where literally it just needs to be a 3x3 rectangle. And if they make the simple adjustments of, the safeties and the J hooks that you put the bar on have a lot of adjustable holes, that just opens up a whole world of basically, honestly, you can do 90 stuff you really need to do. And again, there's a couple things for like, elite level bodybuilders or people that I would say, there's a time and place where machines are very beneficial and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of the progression I would take. And that's really where the biggest jump is from, first bands or whatever dumbbells you can find. And then from there, do I want to actually get, a power rack? And again, if people look around, everything's impossible to find now. But there's great ones that you can find brand new, that are, $500-600, which I know is a lot of money, but it's not insane. And then if you really do some looking around, you can find some used ones occasionally for a pretty darn good deal. So.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think the beautiful thing right now is, have you found that your DILF Maker program, which is the Dads in Love with Fitness program, and your website and stuff, I feel like this has sort of been a bit of a good thing for that, because it is so versatile and you're putting so much stuff up on there, and you're able to, I guess, really showcase some of the home workouts that you can do. How is the DILF Maker going?
Right away, it's, that program I had basically just launched maybe, a month or 2 months before all this kind of hit. So I honestly really haven't been pushing it a whole lot. Because I don't really want to feel like I'm doing anything more than normal right now, and kind of see what the new normal we establish is. So honestly, like right when all this kind of happened, I think due to some degree of uncertainty, a lot of people were like, well, I can't do my gym anymore and I can't do this stuff anymore. So I think there were some people just kind of putting everything on hold. But now, honestly, as we're kind of getting into some people realizing for at least the next couple of weeks or months, more than likely, this is the new normal, then I'm having a lot of people that seem to be showing more interest on, okay, well, there's lots of stuff I can do here with dumbbells and bands. And then again, the same thing with the garage, based program, which again is the DILF Maker program. I honestly haven't, pushed or promoted it a whole lot. And then again, for the same reason, I want some people to kind of, get adjusted first and kind of see what their new norm is and that type of thing. And then, I'm happy to provide the solutions that I had before all this kind of stuff was going on. But so it's a tough balance, because at the end of the day, like I said, I've never really wanted to feel like the pushy salesman type person. People say, how do you start a content site? How do you start this or do that? And I was like, I never really thought about it. I had people ask for it, so if you have people ask for stuff, then the demand's there, and you're not trying to push things in people's face. So I've had more important people just kind of organically asking about stuff, and if I have a solution, I'm happy to provide it. But I think it's overall, in some way it should be good for programs like that. But again, there's a period of time now where I just think I just feel like, I need to keep doing what I'm doing for my sense of purpose. And obviously, like I said, this is what I do for a living. I just like putting out information every single day. I like to help people as much as they want it to be helpful. But I don't want to, really say, oh, hey, everybody, look at this program that I've got, this and that. Again, even regardless of the fact that it existed in the first place, I feel like everyone's trying to also have some degree of tact and just be like, well, because you could always make the argument, how important is working out in the big scheme of things. And again, when someone's had their income cut off, it's not that important. But when people are just basically, maybe not, they're bored right now, or they're kind of out of the routine and they're out of the normal, then obviously your physical health is still massively important. So it's kind of just a little bit of a shakedown period now, to be honest, where I'm like, well, what do I know I can do? I can just keep, showing people options and give people more information. And then again, we'll kind of see how long all this goes. And long term, I think the nice part about some of this is coming out of this, when we hopefully get back to normal, again, whatever our new normal is, there will be a lot more people that are realizing how much they can get done at home and how little equipment they can have and still get stuff done. And again, especially for the normal population, I think that's a great thing to have more options. And again, have less excuses to just be, physically healthy. I think it's going to be a good thing kind of coming out of this. So maybe some silver lining, obviously, to the, again, overall vastly negative stuff that everyone is fortunately going through right now.
Well, yeah, I think you don't really have an option in this case. If fitness and health is a big, if it is a priority to you, you're finding new ways that are going to stay with you forever, which I love. And I guess that's sort of where I want to finish off with you, which is if we were to sort of pick one exercise, I think chest is going to be one of the hardest things to, I guess, hit properly and hit effectively during this time. And there's going to be a hell of a lot of push-ups being done. How can we make push-ups the most effective possible?
I think push-ups aren't too, it's actually one of the easier things, I would say. And again, it depends on the person. So again, I think one of the tougher, again, I hate to say it, but for patterns now to really give people adequate stimulus, again, if we're looking just at equipment, is going to be back stuff, because at least the advantage with anyone having a band is the simple thing. I'm sure a billion people hopefully have seen it, but wrapping a band around your back while you're doing push-ups, actually kind of matches. It makes the exercise better, for lack of a better word, in the first place. So the simple thing of like, well, how tight can I get a band around my back? The simple thing of, if you have the range of motion available, having some handles or something to put your hands on, so maybe you can go a little bit past your hands if you have that range of motion available. I've been messing around with that myself, and I've got a pretty heavy band that I put around my back. I don't really know how many pounds it provides, but if you think about what percentage of your body weight you're lifting on push-ups, it's moderately large already. And then we play around with the options of maybe elevating your feet, not getting into if that changes arm path or whatever. But push-ups aren't, it's a pretty damn good exercise. And again, maybe with a slight foot elevation, hitting some pauses at the bottom, and with a heavy band around your back. I don't know a whole lot of people that are cranking out 50. And let's say hypothetically, what's the most load I can get on myself and the most challenge? I've got my feet slightly elevated, maybe. I've got a band around my back. I've got a little extra range of motion. I'm hitting a pause at the bottom. I think people being strict right now, there's not going to be a whole lot of people that are doing 20 reps with great form. And that would be one of those examples where for that specific exercise, if over the course of this, you go from being able to do 20 to 50, you're going to get bigger. That's not that people get confused about, if I start training these high rep ranges, I'm going to lose tissue. It's like, no, you have the option. Squats with 6 or 8 reps to feel 400 pounds, or should I 100 with body weight? It's not the same example. It's when you have a pretty significant amount of load and you're already in those kind of higher rep ranges and you progress into even higher, you're going to get bigger from that. When I've posted this and I've said it a couple of places, I guess I should have said that for the Mrs. Jones, it's always not the best piece of equipment, but for even the bodybuilder group now and the people with more tissue, rings are great. Rings are one of the best things you can possibly get right now, I think, because again, from an upper body standpoint, you're literally looking between pull-ups and dips. And again, as long as you have something unmoving that you can attach those to, again, once you get the form down, once you get the control down, which is a big challenge. I know what somebody looks like when they can do ring dips with a 45-pound weight around their waist, and then they can do pull-ups, ring pull-ups with a 45-pound weight around their waist. So just having that is for most people an end goal in mind. You get yourself some rings, and you could potentially have at least some parts of your upper body bigger coming out of this thing. I think a lot of people, not for Mrs. Jones, but for a lot of people with more tissue, legs will be the bigger challenge, I think, at this point in time. Again, to get enough load maybe through, your hips and through your quads and things like that. People that were squatting, 400 pounds plus with good form before, it's going to be more of a challenge. Not saying it's impossible, but that might be a little bit of a bigger challenge. So, that'd be the thing for, again, depending on the crowd. Mrs. Jones, I don't really think we'll have any real limitations now. And the people with a little bit more tissue, I'd say for lower body, if I had to pick, upper body, I had to pick one thing, I would pick rings. Again, it's just giving those two relatively simple examples I gave, and people using that as their end goal over the course of this, something's going to could potentially come out the other side with more tissue,
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think this really puts into perspective, your philosophies, along with a bit of Ben Pakulski's philosophies, where it's all about that exercise execution, which is going to be just more important now than ever to get right. And I think focusing on that purposefully and actually putting all your effort into that,
absolutely,
can bring you away with some really good benefits.
Thing is that people are actually having a really good awareness now of, again, like you said, what range of motions do you have? Are you actually using control through the entire range of motion of a given exercise? That is such a great place for people to start to just reestablish, because you'll have very big, very strong people now. They're like, wow, like now that they kind of have to look at this, you're like, wow, was I really making this? If you can squat 500 pounds with good form, there's no point to ever going to 200 pounds and trying to have great form. Most realistically for people, it would be the regression of their loads a little bit to actually take their form back up to the next level. And that happens. I mean, that's a balancing thing that if you're really working hard, you should always go back and forth with where, okay, I've got good form and I've really progressed these loads. But now some people are going to have a little bit of a wake up of, man, am I really just making this as challenging on myself as I can, which I think is the stem of bodybuilding. And as a result of that, if people kind of go back to that, some people will put on some tissue. It'll help you hold tissue. But then kind of like we talked about coming out the other side, I think that has, for lack of a better term, a corrective benefit. So it's like, I'm actually like aware of keeping my hips in my midsection and my around my legs tight and the bottom of the squat. Some stuff that might have been giving you some issues can tend to resolve. And then coming out the other side of it too is, again, you go back to using those heavier loads and you've got this kind of newfound or reestablished or revamped form again. You're like, oh my gosh, like I can actually make this load so much harder. So yeah, there's for sure, even for the people with more tissue, it's a great time to just kind of reestablish your parameters and that's the simple version for a lot of people. I mean, there's some complexity to things that you're trying to prevent, overuse injuries down the road that you might not feel or see immediately. But for most people, the stem of bodybuilding, again, going back from, when bodybuilding really, as we know it now, started, 40s and 50s and 60s, through the Arnold era, it's just the simple idea, getting your head around. It's like, I'm just trying to make this as hard as possible on myself. It's not just A to B. It's a tool, again, to try and challenge myself as much as possible. And yeah, like you said, this is a great time to kind of reestablish how can I make that challenge as hard as I can.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to sort of finish off here by actually, on your site, you've only got 2 bits of items up for sale, and that's a t-shirt. And I want to get out that quote, and I want you to explain a little bit, because I personally love it, which is, your training intensity can never be too high, your execution can never be too perfect, and your nutsack can never be too big. That is just great. What do you think that still applies now?
When I'm actually thinking intensity, I think that depending on who you talk to, the definition of intensity for all intents and purposes for training is basically relative, amount of load relative to your 1 rep max. So again, I do think it's vastly important that once your execution is perfect, you're working at the limits of the parameters of the loads within the parameters that you set forward for yourself. So again, if let's say literally you have whatever perfect form means to you, you're trying to train in that 6 to 8 rep range. I mean, that really everyone should always have the end goal that you can always put more weight on the bar. I mean, that's the problem, is when some people get too form focused. They just say, I don't really ever need to move up weight. I can just keep making these 200-pound squats harder and harder and harder. And the reality is that everything should be progressive, and I like things that are quantitative and progressive. So the intensity really is not just my perceive of like, I joke, it's like the CrossFit version of that was an intense workout. And again, not to be a dick, but like from the technical standpoint, most CrossFit workouts are the opposite of intense. They're normally extremely dense, crazy amounts of volume in a short period of time. The most intense workout should be when someone does a 1 rep max. That person gets up off the bench and says, that was intense. I mean, being a nerd, and obviously most people don't care about getting technical jargon or nomenclature right, but that's technically intense. But I think that notion needs to always exist within training, that you are working at your physical limits of actual load, and given volume that you're using for bodybuilding. And then your execution can never be too perfect. I mean, that's the first half of that quote is basically realizing that that's the end goal, is there's points you can't actually get to. As long as someone's deadlifting 800 pounds and you're not, you have a place to progress intensity. And as long as someone is really making an exercise harder and more challenging on themselves than you always have a place you can progress execution. And then the reality of the whole nutsack, which may or may not be offensive. I joke it's a metaphorical nutsack, so it applies to the ladies as well too, which is still just disgusting and really, if you think about it, and highly offensive. So I apologize to everyone if my mom ever listens to me saying that. I think my mom's seen my shirt. I just don't ask mom. I'm sorry. But there is absolutely this component of how far are you willing to take things, and are you willing to do things that other people are unable to do, and that's really what that absolutely this non-tangible qualitative factors that I've been lucky enough to see, which is normal people with some of the best people in the world as hard training individuals, is some people are literally just willing to endure more pain and put more stuff on themselves than other people. And that's absolutely, I would say arguably, because it's that thing that predetermines your willingness to take the other 2 variables as far as possible. Because again, that's the thing, is some people are unwilling to ever really address their form because they just don't want to do things. Form for them It's the thing that's uncomfortable and painful. And then same thing for the other people. The people like to squeeze the pink dumbbells all the time. The reason they're not progressing intensity or progressing loads is because that's something they're trying to avoid. And it's a pain or a level of whatever discomfort they're not willing to endure. So yeah, as much as that's a silly kind of quote, and depending on who's reading it, someone finds it highly offensive and disgusting. It's obviously it's just the conversations that I've had. And I used to joke, especially training with Ben, for years. That was kind of the joke, is sometimes people won't get that, because a lot of people used to look at some of the stuff that Ben would do or he'd make other people do, and the nerd will be like, oh, that's stupid, that was too much, that was overtraining, or that didn't make any sense. But the reality is, some people, if you're only going to go train with Ben once, if you're going to go train with him for a few days, or anybody for that matter, if someone comes and trains with me for a few days, I want to give them some nerd stuff, like, okay, here's better options, here's some concepts to take away. But most of the time, I'm always trying to show people that they have levels that they're still capable of going to that they haven't gone. I mean, nobody likes that. Nobody likes that answer, because I always tell people, well, everyone asks me all the time, how do I grow this? How do I do that? And I go, well, however hard you think because everyone thinks they're training hard. You ask them, like, oh, I train hard, that's not the issue. And I'm like, well, in my professional opinion, it is the issue, and it's always the issue. And so people have gears that they can still go to. And again, people like to use everything as an excuse. They like to use drugs as the excuse. It's like, oh, well, no, that person's just bigger because they take drugs. No, it's possible that they're actually training harder than you. And then you get, again, the nerdy, the sciencey people like, oh, well, that's not it. Training to failure is too much anyway. You can't really recover from that. That's not for natural individuals, or that's not for whatever. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not saying you should do 10 sets of 10 if you're natural, but the ability to take, again, still tends to be the biggest, or one of the biggest things that people lack. And so that's, again, something that I really, Ben was one of the people I really got exposed to that a lot from, is we would literally do something sometimes, for lack of a better word, on paper were stupid. Like, yeah, this makes no sense within a programming standpoint, but having gone through this experience, endured this level of pain, and done things that other people won't do, now you have an idea of where you can still take things. And it might not be appropriate to go and do that thing again next week. But again, when someone comes and trains with me, that's normally something I always think people are thinking, oh, I'm going to learn this for me squeezy thing. And literally I'll take like a year or two off their life on like a hack squat. And I'm like, well, that might not actually be appropriate, but that can be your end goal, that you still have that place you can go within your training. So yeah, it's captured as well. I was at least proud of myself for that little quote, because it's like 3 sentences, or whatever. Where normally, again, I can't put a half an hour conversation on the back of a shirt like we just had, because otherwise that probably wouldn't be quite as catchy. But
and yeah, look, as obviously being from down under, I don't think too many people are going to take offense to that. I think we love it. And yeah, man, look, obviously the way that you talk about some of these big concepts is just incredible, and I'm trying to sort of bridge that gap between the Mrs. Jones and the bodybuilding side of things, because like you said, the intensity has to be there, and I want people to understand the concepts behind that so that they can reach those levels in their time frame, in however long it takes them, if that is their goal. And like you said, we want to make them badass. So tell us, Joe, where can people find you? How can people work with you?
For social media is Instagram, and it's just my handle is Hypertrophy Coach. For anyone that can't spell that, it's just Hypertrophy Coach. That's how it's actually spelled, is how it sounds. And then I have a YouTube page, which is pretty good. I don't put as much time and effort into that. But Instagram's the main place where you'll find all of my stuff, and anybody interested in more stuff, got that same link in my bio that everybody does to all of my stuff. And then my biggest thing that I provide for people that want more than free content, I have basically, it's a website and an app that's basically just, the same content in 2 different formats. Obviously something you can view on a desktop or an actual app. And so the website is hypertrophycoach.com. The app, if you look in the App Store or Google Play, is just Hypertrophy Coach. And that's honestly, it's the only issue I have with those is it's too much information for most people. Again, but I'm biased. The amount of information on there's literally 100. There's, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus hours. If you look at the Q&A, hundreds of hours of educational material on there. So for, again, people actually wanting some specifics, there's specifics on there. For people wanting to go levels of nerd deeper, there's some nerd stuff on there. And yeah, like you mentioned before, now I actually have like a DILF maker program, which is which is the joke, is it's geared towards men. I'd actually started with one I had geared towards females, which eventually I'll kind of revamp as well too. But it's more for the normal crowd. So for someone that wants, it's garage gym programming. So for most people, garage gym, or for people obviously that just don't want a whole bunch of shit going on, it's people do it in commercial gyms as well too. But it's monthly programming where I provide you with, again, literally every single month you get brand new programming. workout write-ups, videos, walkthrough videos, and then again, access to me, private group, and I do a coaching call as well too. So there's all my shameless plugs. But again, it is what it is. For anybody wanting that kind of stuff, it is there. And like I say, I'm more than happy if, anyone that follows my stuff on Instagram knows, like we said, I don't do a whole lot of stuff short. So if you want a lot of free information, and you're bored right now, just look at my free information that is on my my Instagram and my YouTube, because there's a lot of stuff on there. And then I'm more than understanding and happy for people that's all the further they ever want to take it. It's just whatever I'm giving out for free, which is cool, because I'm the same thing. Growing up, I had a ton of people I got free stuff from. I've had a million, certs I've paid for, a million consultations I've paid for. So there's never anything that I'm kind of promoting to anybody that I haven't done every level and in between myself. So.
Yeah, and look, I think we definitely have a little bit more time in our hands than usual. So I really encourage everyone to get out there and look at some of this long form stuff, because it can really, and I can say this from a personal side, it can really change the way you look at training, exercise, your life, why you train, all these things. So I really encourage everyone to get on it. Man. Joe Bennett, I can't thank you enough for jumping on board with me here today.
All right.
Too easy, mate. All right. Well, we can leave it there. I hope you have an awesome day, my man.
Just incredible, and still just on such a high that I was able to get the hypertrophy coach on board. Yeah, look, after listening back to it, the lag a little bit was there, so I apologize for that. I think it was just going from US to Oz, so back there at the end there, it sort of sounded a little bit sketchy, but I really hope that you look at the content that's in there and just how much effort he goes into trying to explain and sort of give information and give some real world insights to everybody listening, no matter where your sort of mindset is at with it, whether you love training or hate training and you're doing it just because it makes you feel good but you don't enjoy it. And then to the people that are willing to do anything to get the most out of this time, he talks to everybody, and that's what I love. He's always thinking about solutions to the problems. I really, really suggest that you go and look at a couple of his videos, get on there and try and get the perspective and the concepts, because those concepts you can take anywhere. A workout during this time, and just paying for exercises and workouts, I don't see a massive benefit to people long term. This is a great time to be looking at concepts and understanding what actually makes a muscle grow. What can we do if that's your main goal, or what are the actual mechanisms to losing fat? Because all we really think about is that we'll tie all these things to the gym, but in reality, that's a very small part of it, and a lot more of it is actually about you actually doing these things that subconsciously, and it's when you start to drink more water, and when you start to get more sleep, and you start to be more strict with your calorie intake and all these little things. So now's a great time to look into those. And yeah, if you didn't get all of this information and it was a little bit too much, this is one I would definitely recommend coming back and having a second listen to, and actually trying to take some notes, especially if you're feeling a little bit anxious about home training, because there's just unbelievable amounts of information. So thanks again, everyone, for joining me today, and I hope everyone's doing well. Joe talks a lot about bringing solutions to the problems, and that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to get everybody and myself to answer as many questions as possible so that there's no confusion, and I hope that's sort of coming across. So if there's anything you want to know, if there's any questions, feel free to flick them through, and I'm going to do everything I can to collate a lot of great speakers and guests and answers for you guys, because that's really what it's all about right now. All right, peace out, guys. Thank you so much.